Hi, Roy here on my channel Roy Reads Anything, which is where I look at old books that are strange, interesting, weird, or I just like them, and I talk about them. And this will be, by request of a subscriber, a bit of a shelf tour. So these shelves are next to an armchair where I spend a lot of time sitting, and I've got some books on them that I will tell you about. So first of all, I'll just tell you a little bit about the shelves themselves, which were made by Dr. Jenny's dad, who was a cabinet maker and made lots of fabulous furniture items. These he made for his own family, and the top two shelves, or the top, there's a sort of open shelf on the top, and then these two shelves were specifically made to house everyman books. So these were a series of non-fiction and classics and all sorts of books in a numbered series that were sort of affordable home education, build your own library kind of thing. They used to look like this. Here's number 200, St. Augustine and his Confessions. But as it turns out, everyman size is very close to classic American paperback size, which makes them great for me and my predilections. So yes, so what I use the shelves for? Well, the top shelf is kind of a holding area that might have anything on it at any given time. Basically, things I'm reading at the moment or expect to read pretty soon, or they're just sort of, they've arrived and I haven't sort of done anything with them yet. So there's always all sorts of stuff here. These are the kind of things I've been talking about on my weekly reads type of videos. I should point out I'll have to contort my body in many strange ways to fit into this tiny space between the chair and the shelves, and I'm revealing a gulf, a sort of an abyss that is seldom explored because usually it's got other things in front of it. So who knows what we'll discover. Anyway, getting below the sort of Rikers Island of books up here, the holding cells, we get into stuff I've collected. So the top two, Ballantine Fantasy series. And I did make a little video about this a while ago, so I won't go on about it too much, but what you get here is a kind of a history of paperback fantasy, really. So I've got my Ace Lord of the Rings, which were the pirate editions that were swiftly followed by Ballantine Books and their official versions, which were million sellers. So they did some other fantasy stuff. Obviously had the idea that trilogies set in imaginary worlds equals fantasy, so you get things that are completely not like Tolkien, such as Mervyn Peake's Gormenghast stuff, and a few other books they did. And then from here onwards they brought in Lynn Carter to be their editor for a series of fantasy books. And that's what all of these are. There were, I think, 69 of them. It gets a bit debatable, some of which ones should be included or not. But a classic Ballantine paperback would have a unicorn's head logo. It's called, it's adult fantasy, always regretting that that's what they called it. You get an introduction by Lynn Carter that's like a super adrenalized shot of sort of he's acting like a circus barker, inviting you in to see the wonders of the book. And some of these were reprints. In fact, a lot of them were reprinted from Victorian times, early 20th century, but they published new stuff too. And I've already done a video about these, so won't labour the point, but always happy to talk Valentine. Then, getting lower down, here I've collected basically sword and sorcery. So the earliest ones here are the Sphere Conan books. So these were, Sphere is a UK paperback publisher. They were reprinting Lancer's Conan collections, which started in the 60s. They are the original Conan stories by Robert E. Howard, interspersed, controversially, with new stories by Elsbreg de Camp, Lynn Carter, and there's a novel by Bjorn Nyberg as well. So they sort of made a saga, which I read with enthusiasm as a boy. So I still have those, never want to part with them. Also got this Lancer King Cole book, so that's another one of Howard's sword and sorcery characters, which I originally got this for 5p in Woolworths. That one literally fell to pieces. So Lancer, great at publishing books, not so great at gluing the pages into the spines. But here's a sort of immaculate copy that I rebought because it's just got this fantastic cover by Roy Krenkel, I believe, which is just a kind of strange barbaric splendour of the forgotten realms of sword and sorcery. I think this was the first book where I already had it and I bought another edition. So when there was a UK King Cole came out, who did that? Sphere also, covered by Chris Achilleos. I got that as well, so that was a first for me in kind of book collecting. Then I've basically got more Robert E. Howard and more sort of, there were some pastiches of Howard characters by other writers. That takes us all the way along to a recent one, Ramsey Campbell's novelisation with additions of the Solomon Kane movie. Yep, various items there, and then we get into sword and sorcery anthologies. There's one from Door Books called Heroic Fantasy. The Flashing Swords was a series of anthologies. Two of these were published in the UK. There were some more in the States going up to 5. Flashing Swords 5 is also known as Demons and Daggers, and very recently there has been a Flashing Swords 6 with massive controversy. There's Flashing Swords 6 came out, was withdrawn by the publisher, and then a different publishers produced a new Flashing Swords 6, a strange and somewhat ignoble saga that I will not go into the details of. Yes, there is the Flashing Swords 6 that was allowed to be published in the end. Um, oh, lower down, carries on in the world of fantasy with things like Clark Ashton Smith, Panther Books. Panther, UK paperback publisher, produced probably most of Clark Ashton Smith's output in paperback form, again back in the 70s. This is like a time machine in a way, like all time, doesn't actually work in a sense, but there is, yes, so books I have loved that I still have. Another set I really like is these Red Sonja series, 6 books, David C. Smith, Richard L. Tierney. So taking a sword and sorcery character that's actually created for Marvel Comics, to some extent based on a Robert E. Howard character. It is she who wears the armour in bikini form for mobility. Yes, set of books there. It took me ages to get all 6. After that, it stays roughly in the same sort of realms with a mixed bag of Lynn Carter novels. I've never tried to collect them all, but have quite a few. Yeah, Random Things, Whom the Gods Would Slay by Arvar Jorgensen. Lovely Jeffrey Catherine Jones cover. I think it's a Viking warrior gets taken into the future on a UFO or something like that. And a whole bunch of year's best fantasy stories. So remember, 6 hours ago I was telling you about Lynn Carter and his Ballantine fantasy series. That finally came to an end. A thing that Carter carried on doing in his role as an editor were these year's best fantasy collections, which are a lot of fun as well. Door books, lovely yellow spines, yellow edges. That's again a thing that I'm very keen on. So that's about it. That's what these shelves are about, really. Fantasy and sword and sorcery. Like I say, it's a sort of abyss next to my chair, which I've kind of cleaned out, because normally things sort of find their way down there. So I found a plastic dinosaur, a gavel for starting meetings and calling for order, various oversized things. I've got a Dick Barton Special Agent Annual, a Union Jack Christmas number from 1924 featuring a great Sexton Blake story, the How and Why Book of Dinosaurs, a ABC Film Review magazine from 1968, and Fear magazine from, that'd be like early 90s, and it's another Dick Barton annual. So all sorts of things I've kind of drifted off into there and never reappeared until today. So yeah. Oh, hang on. There's a Sergeant Rock comic as well. Reminds me of the Fall song, The Man Whose Head Expanded, where Mark E. Smith sings that he keeps bottles and comics stuffed by the head. of his bed. Okay, so some shelves. These aren't the only shelves. They're probably the shelves with the most rational ordering. So we have toured them. Thank you for watching, and see you soon with something else. Bye.